Okay, the last concept in business continuity would be tabletop exercises. And as you might guess, a tabletop exercise is where, as the name implies, everyone kind of sits around or stands around in a room on a table, spreads out all of their specific pieces of infrastructure. They kind of either draw it out or they have their planning books or their run books, and everybody has their little piece of the puzzle. And then you go through these mock exercises and you say, okay, let's simulate a failure. Let's simulate a specific type of disaster. And you fully test as much as possible the operations in the event of that disaster. So again, as I said, all necessary parties really should be involved, and that means everybody top to bottom, from executive management, HR, IT, legal, so on and so forth. So again, depending upon your environment, you may need internal resources only, or you may want to invite outside agencies and/or third parties. Okay, that's something that you, as the business owner or the business manager, needs to decide. But in that environment, you would determine the scope and the locality of the disaster. Is it localized? Is it regional? Is it catastrophic? And the other thing you have to keep in mind, do you actually plan that out ahead of time and give everyone advance notice? Or do you just spring it on everybody? Because as we know, disasters typically, they don't knock on doors and say, hey, we're going to be here next week, so you might want to prepare. Sometimes they do, if it's a hurricane, an earthquake, a tsunami, you may have some type of warning, but typically not enough to really give you an extended amount of time to prepare. So in doing your disaster recovery and your tabletop exercises, if you kind of get in the mindset that, hey, this could happen at a moment's notice, so we need to be able to prepare in such a fashion that we spring this on everyone at a moment's notice. That way you get a little more realistic view of how all the different counterparts within a business come together and act and interact, I guess, with each other is the best term, in the event of something catastrophic. So real world disasters, it needs to be as realistic as possible to identify gaps and areas, because there's always going to be areas for improvement. Again, it's an iterative process. That disaster recovery, the planning, the business continuity plan, all of these different things are living documents, so that it's not a one and done where you just write up this policy and it never revisit it again. All right, so you have to understand that this is something that should be periodically gone through. You run through these maybe once or twice a year, and then adjust it as necessary, so that you can make sure that everything's working in concert with one another.